in your bed and your name is on the roof.
You want to run this? Well, good morning. Appreciate you joining us to be out here. Dr. Litzman, it's not here to speak to you. We're wrapping up one day of his vacation exam, much needed vacation. So excited to be back here next week. I'm going with us this morning, so I'm Brian Schaefer, Chief Learning, and I would fill in for him. I'm going to go 2 inches shorter than him, so let's start quick before we get started. Let's do some introductions to some district folks that are here. So, Joe, what's up? So, Mark, Director of Technology.
Gary Verslice, I want to see secondary education.
Frank Underwood, Transportation, State Hall Security.
Gabrielle Parker, Manager of Village Form Nursing. Ryan Burns, Director of Communications.
All right, I got that one. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Director of Business Services. And Denise Pierce, Director of Business Services.
Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to spend the morning and give a few updates. We want to talk a little bit about some updates on the construction process and where we're at, how things are going. We're talking a bit about the boundaries that's starting to come towards the tail end of our boundary discussions and decisions. And then I want to do a little bit of update on some teaching and learning pieces that we have in the works for the school year. So we're going to start with Carrie. You want to come up here and ask you give us an update as to where the project's at, how we want to be on track. And probably have noticed there's a lottery going up the boulevard. There's a large structure going up on the boulevard over there. So, Carrie, if you want to use this mic, I'd appreciate it.
Right now, work is at a very quick pace over at Jeff City High School, the renovation that we call Area G, the hallway along Lafayette Street is under construction, under renovation. The top floor will be done by the time the students arrive. You wouldn't believe that if you went and looked at it right now, but it will be done. They are painting. Nabholz is doing a really good job coordinating the work there. Likewise, at Capital City High School, everybody sees the steel going up, concrete footings being poured. The current high school is divided into several phases, and so the next phase after Area G, top floor will be done by the time the kids get there. They will finish Area G and then switch over to Nichols Career Center. That's phase 2. Mitchell, tell me if I get this wrong, but that's phase 2, Nichols Career Center, first floor. That top floor of G and the trailers will be swing classrooms for the students to move in and out while their area of the building is taken down. So Nichols Career Center first floor is next. That'll be sometime this fall when they go over there. Phase 3 would be Area F of the high school, which is if you're familiar with the building, the east or north side overlooking the parking lots, the science areas. That's next. Phase 4 is the gymnasium, locker, office, and cafeteria renovation. That will be all existing areas of the building. Phase 5 is Nichols Career Center, second floor. Phase 6 is Nichols Career Center, second floor, and the remaining area is not done. Simultaneous to that will be the new construction of the connector, media center, auxiliary gym, right between the two buildings. That will start in October and last simultaneous with all those other phases we talked about. I want to hats off to staff, it's district staff who are working with Nabholz Construction, the construction manager. But every one of those phases I talked about, there's a very intense routing plan to keep the kids and the construction separated and keep safety as high as possible. On Capital City High School, like I said, you see the steel and the concrete going up. I believe the goal is around the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, to be under roof. Do I have that right? Okay. Have that under roof, which will help the conditions for the workers out there. Rough grading for the building is complete. I will say there's a massive amount of materials and fabrication happening in shops right now that are set to be delivered to the site. So there's a lot of work off-site that people don't really see. That project is easier to phase. The high school has 7 phases because it's an occupied building. The Capital City High School only has 2 phases. Phase 1 will be enough classrooms for sophomores and freshmen, plus admin, cafeteria, eating area. Phase 2 will be gymnasiums, all the rest of the classrooms, and those are only a semester apart. So a lot of things happening. Frankly, there's a lot of people in the field working overtime and weekends. The other thing I wanted to mention was the companies that are contributing to the project. There's an enormous, I guess the majority of the work is happening by local firms. When I say local, I mean Jeff City and the surrounding small towns. Companies that I just wanted to read off, this is pretty interesting if you're into this. Don Schneider's Excavating, GBH Builders, Harold Butzer, Meyer Electric, Summit Mechanical, Fence Pro, Mid-America Precast, Bill Brinkley and Sons Excavator, Capital Quarries, Jefferson City Oil, Tweehouse Excavating, Hewlett, Walsh, Thermal Mechanics, Camarco, Winterdent, just down the street from us, Cove and Maine, T&G Specialties, Circle Contracting, Asbestos Removal Services, DeLong's, E&K Central Missouri, Lehman, Farmers Concrete, Midwest Block and Brick, Probst Builders, Missouri Builders, Dooley Overhead Doors, Central Missouri Glass, Imhoff Construction, Questec, Kaiser, Electric, and Capital Paving. That's the ones I just wrote down that are in our community. There are others in other states, and there's a few things that are even out of state coming to the project. But one of the main goals of the district was to use local businesses for the project, and Nabholz has done an excellent job of trying to get that accomplished. The other thing is the number. Obviously, that generates income here in the town. They go to restaurants, they eat cheeseburgers. But also, we noticed the number when we get the pay applications from Nabholz, review those and send them on to the owner for approval. We noticed how many people, obviously a lot of people from Jeff City are working on the project, but just the surrounding communities. I'm not going to read all these, but there's about 50 surrounding communities that are sending people to Jeff City to work. So they're buying cheeseburgers too. So that's been really neat. I was amazed at how many, and these are the ones that I consider local area driving distance, not including folks that are working out of St. Louis and Kansas City is included. They're not even on this list. Some of the distance are coming from there, but these are the surrounding communities that are contributing to the project. So everything's going well. Like I said, a lot of overtime. Mitchell is the project manager for Capital City High School with Nabholz. Do you have anything to add?
No, we finalized the GP, we're doing all the rest of the stuff on board for Capital City High School, so everything's kind of locked in now with the design phase on the procurement of all materials and stuff, so it's kind of exciting time for us.
Yeah.
40 new contractors on board,
Dozens and dozens of subcontracts through Nabholz on this project. The other thing, upcoming deadline for us, everything's designed now except the rest of Jeff City High School. We've got Area G out. The rest of the documents are due August 15th. That'll be a whole other wave of subcontracts and kicking into full gear at the current high school. Any questions? Thanks.
Where would you say we are with time?
Wrong.
Yeah, like that was the goal the whole way through our Capital City. We knew it was going to be fast to get over our classes and construction around. But if we were able to get over the run and see it, put us in good shape for finishing over the next months through there. And we're right on track with that. So it's going well.
Well, you can kind of tell the excavators, the concrete that's showing up, the gravel that's showing up. That's all right on schedule. And if we were in trouble there, then it affects the whole rest of the job. So and those are all local firms providing the labor and material. That's all up to speed. So hats off to them.
I know they were waiting on some permits to finish excavating. Have those come through yet, or are you still waiting?
No, so it's kind of less critical area. It's just working grading down to the practice. We're waiting for permit from the Corps of Engineers to fill in concrete with a small creek bed that's to be approved. Either way, that's, I'm trying to
We have municipal permits for the building, and that's moving, and the grading for that, which is about 2/3 of the grading. There's still 1/3, which is associated with the creeks running through. That's a different permit through DNR. That's the other third of excavating roughly, that's coming. So everything that needs to happen for the building has been awarded and in place. There's some environmental studies that were done and things like that. That's a different permit through DNR, and that has to do with site work and practice fields outside the building. So that stuff's coming. Am I going to solve the parking problem? We're making a stab at it, but I don't think we can solve it. Yeah, there's the design team is, we're the Architects Alliance, for the local architects. We're teamed with ACI Bolin and DLR Group, both specialize in school projects. And then we have a slew of engineering disciplines, consulting. But I'm not sure we're going to solve all the problems, but we're going to make a big dent in it. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. You're going to help me with this. So you may have heard that we've, as a result of building a second high school, we've been doing a little bit of work with boundaries. And so there have been numerous meetings take place with, there is a boundary committee represented by 32 of our community members. But in addition to that, Dr. Lipcomb has been going to multiple locations and holding town halls and public meetings and having conversations about the discussions that are happening with the boundary committee and the direction that they're headed. And so the boundary committee has, and the last work that they've done is to narrow it down to 3 potential options for what our boundaries would look like. And I just want to give you a quick update on those 3. And so there was scenario A, B, and C. And so just to remind you, scenario A, the change that would take place would be this little section right here, which is the north piece of currently Cedar Hill. Under this scenario, this little section right here would actually, the boundary would change. Instead of, it currently follows this line, it would change and go down here, and this piece of Cedar Hill would become part of South Attendance Area. And so under scenario A, this group right here, and inside of that section right there, there are a total of 47 public school students, and of the 47, 37 of those currently attend Cedar Hill. So those 37 students under this scenario would be redistricted to south. Okay, that's what scenario A is. You just leave this up because scenario B looks exactly like that, except this little section right here, those kids, instead of going to south, would remain at Cedar Hill. They would stay at Cedar Hill for their elementary school. However, when it came time to go to middle school, currently right now all of Cedar Hill goes to LC. Well, under this scenario, when it's time to go to middle school, this section down here would continue to go to LC, but this little window right here would then go to TJ. So there would be a split at Cedar Hill. Currently the only split that we have is Thorpe Gordon. Under all 3 of the scenarios, Thorpe Gordon is no longer split, and if you remember, that was one of the goals, was to try to eliminate splits. But under scenario B, there would be a split at middle school. This little section here would leave the Cedar Hill friends and would go to TJ, and the rest of them would go to LC. They would also be Capital City, and these folks would be the current high school. So there would be a split under scenario B, and then we need to go to C because it looks different. So under C, it is basically making no changes. This is what it looks like. So there'd be no changes. There would be no splits, because under this scenario, the only change would be this little section right here is Thorpe Gordon. And there is a small piece of Thorpe Gordon that currently attends. There are 58 total students that live in that section. And I think of the 58, 24 of them currently go to Thorpe Gordon. Those 24 Thorpe Gordon students right now are slated to go to, they would split and they would go to TJ, and the rest of them would go to LC. Well, under all 3 scenarios, we keep all of Thorpe Gordon together, all right, and they would all go to LC. And so that is the only change, is to have those 24 elementary students stay with their cohort and go to LC. But otherwise, all boundaries would stay the same. There would be no splitting. However, you know that one of our goals was to get Capital City out of the Lewis and Clark boundary area, get it into the TJ area. So this scenario does not do that. So those are the three scenarios that the team had narrowed down. And so at the last meeting, took place here, Dr. Lithcom asked for the team members to give some input by voting. And the way he did that was he put A, B, and C out there and said, we want you to rank them. If you were to pick today, which one would you say, this is my number one choice? This is what I would recommend that we do. And so at the time, the way those fell were, option A, which again was to move that group of kids from Cedar Hill over to South, received 5 votes. 5 people said that'd be my number one pick. Option B, which was to, again, have that line, they don't go to South, they stay at Cedar Hill, but that we split them for middle school and high school. That received 8 number one votes. And then option C, again, was to change nothing and to stop splitting Thorpe Gordon. However, we would not be able to get Capital City into the outside of Cedar Hill. That option received 9 votes. And so it was a total of 22 votes that came in. There were 32 members on the committee. 10 of them, for whatever reason, chose not to vote. But of the 22, that's how they failed. So they were 5, 8, and 9. And so what Dr. Lithcom has said all along is that it isn't for the committee to decide which of those scenarios are going to happen. The next step now is for Dr. Lithcom to take the information to the Board of Education. He'll do that on Monday the 13th. He'll share with them the information and the conversations that have taken place in all of the meetings. I'm sure that he will share with them the data that I just shared with you. And then the Board of Education will need to make some decisions as to what they do with that information. The reason that it will be an agenda item is because we want more of the community to come in, have conversations with the Board of Education, and share their thinking. We likely won't see final decisions happening until at least September, because we need a couple months of letting the patrons come in and engage with the board and give the Board of Education more information as they make decisions. And then it will be up to them whether or not they use these 3. If they ask for more information, if they ask for Dr. Lithcom to narrow it down, that will be up to them. But that's where we are today. They've narrowed it down to 3. They've collected some information from the committee, and that's where they're at with the scenarios. So questions about that, about the boundaries or scenarios? Yeah.
Were all the committee members present at that meeting?
No, they weren't. At that meeting, I believe there were 11 that were here. They all voted. The night of the meeting, anyone that was here voted. 100% voted. Then what they did was the next day, shot vote for those that weren't here. Ryan sent out an email to the rest of the committee and said, last night we took the vote, we'd like you to do the same thing. We invited them to do it, and you got another 11, correct? So there were 11 that were present, 11 more voted through email, and then the remaining 10 just chose not to respond.
So my second question is, timeline for a decision. I know the board has a meeting on the 13th. Originally, Dr. Lithcom said that he really wanted to have this done prior to school starting, with up to the potential for November being the latest. Is that still the timeline?
It is. So you'll notice that for the August board meeting and the September board meeting, it will be an agenda item. So invite patrons to come in. Whether or not the Board of Education will be ready in September will be up to them, but it is still the goal to. The goal was August. It just we don't want to rush it, and so we need a little bit more time. And so it'll be an agenda item for August and September. Potentially, there could be a decision at the September board meeting, or it could move on to October or November.
Is September open to the public as well?
It is. It will be. Yes. If it's an agenda item, it's open to the public. Other questions about that?
I'm sorry, I have another question.
Go ahead.
This is the whole purpose of me being here today. So, to my knowledge, the committee for Cedar Hill does not have a member in the affected area. That 37 students, I represent greater than 10% of those, and I also represent over 50% of the entire populated area, more than 50% of those affected students. And we all intended and want to be part of the new high school. That was the whole reason we all voted for it.
When you say all, you mean the section or all of
The
Cedar
whole
Hill?
section, particularly the Fairlawn subdivision. And I presented Dr. Lindsay with those.
Brenda, would you bring up A so we can hear?
What area?
A. where we
I'd
are?
have to see a closer map to show you exactly, but let me show you. I think it's these, right here.
The northern section.
If I'm not mistaken, it's hard to see. But that entire area has over half of the population that you're talking about, the affected students. And so we don't necessarily feel that our position is being properly represented. What can we do to get someone from our area that has a more invested interest in what happens to have some kind of say or vote?
Yeah, so let me start with this, that when the committee was designed, remember that was prior to even thinking or even knowing that this scenario would happen. Had we known it, we probably would have intentionally said we have to get them, we just didn't know it. What I would say now is that since the committee work has come to an end, is the next steps would be September and August, the board meetings, is you or representation of those areas need to be at the board meeting. If it's an agenda item, you have the ability to stand up and discuss that information or share your thoughts or your thinking about that. So now, when you started though, you said that we want to go to capital city. Is that what I heard you say? Yeah. And so,
And whether that ends up being option A or option B, they're all open to that because that was, they feel like it's so centralized. There's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be. I mean, we're in walking distance.
so you believe that the group that you're representing likes A and B and not C?
Yeah, I mean, I have their signatures. Yeah, they definitely want it.
So I would encourage you. I would come to the 13th. Will be the first opportunity to stand and to share your thinking. And so I would encourage you or whoever else wants to represent the group or the group themselves to be there. Other questions? Okay. Let me take a little bit of opportunity to share. You probably have noticed over the past 6 or 8 months, Philip has been working with us and he's done some stories on our literacy initiatives. And there's been a lot of work happening around literacy. As you know, if you look at the results across the city, we're not happy with what our literacy achievement looks like. We simply don't have enough students reading on grade level, and we need to do something about it. We have always had a good, solid structure in terms of the practices that we use in the classroom. But we've fallen short in some other areas. We've fallen short in providing the resources for the teachers and the tools that they need, the assessment tools, the planning tools, the instructional tools. We haven't done a real good job historically in providing our teachers those resources. And so we've done a lot of work around, let's get them the right stuff. But we also know that when you get them the stuff to do it, we also have to develop them. And so we have had a lot of planning in place for how are we going to engage our teachers and get them the right stuff, and let's ensure that we are providing the best literacy program we can to ensure kids are reading on grade level. And you're going to hear a lot of stuff, and you're probably going to see more stories this school year about literacy in our plan, and you're going to see that we have things called like an all-in approach. And we believe that literacy is not we're just going to teach kids to read in kindergarten, from there to more, if we just do that, we would be fine, because that's just not true. The text and the literature that kids use throughout their school program, middle school and high school, gets more and more difficult. And just because you can read doesn't mean that you are proficient at processing difficult text. And so we believe that we need a program in place to support kids with literacy K-12. And so we have a lot going on under this program. It's a very comprehensive program. And I've asked for our Assistant Superintendent of Elementary, is Lori Ross, our Assistant Superintendent of Secondary, Gary Gerslois. The three of us spent a lot of time having these conversations and designing what that's going to look like. I've asked them to give you just a couple of points as to what's happening at elementary and secondary. So Lori, if you would come up here, we'll start with our K-5 program and just share a couple thoughts on the work that we're doing around literacy.
Good morning. Really excited to talk about some of the changes that we've got going. We worked a lot last year. We implemented our lab classroom model in Cedar Hill with 2 of our classroom teachers at kindergarten and 3rd grade. We felt that model was necessary to help bring our teachers across our district in to watch a literacy model being put in place that follows the model, that uses all the same resources that they have, but follows a consistent model. Our goal was to increase that this coming year, and so this year we'll be opening a 1st grade and a 5th grade model classroom, one across the river at Callaway Hills, and then one out west at Pioneer Trail. And the purpose of that is to be able to bring our coaches, our instructional coaches, our reading teachers, and our classroom teachers into those classrooms. They come in with a goal of what aspect of guided reading or literacy that they want to watch, and then they watch. They sit down, they watch the kids, they watch the teachers putting instruction in place, and then they're able to debrief with the instructional coach that has been part of the planning, and set a goal with their building principal, and then go back in and put those things in place. And so gradually, we want to see that all of our instructional models at every one of our buildings is consistent, and if there's questions, our instructional coaches are there that we can provide more training to. Our principals are a part of that training as well. We've got a really laid out process for this upcoming year, and want to continue with those literacy initiatives that all classroom teachers are very clear with. We are getting ready to pilot this year 2 new reading resources that we will take a look at that will put more into our classroom teachers' hands. And so we're very excited about that. That will start from day one. They get the training next week. Our instructional coaches will be in those classrooms, and we'll be helping and bringing in other classroom teachers to watch those pilots taking place so that we can make the best choice possible. We also changed our instructional model last year with our Title I services so that all of our buildings are Title I now. And so we'll have a reading specialist in each building, and many of our buildings, 8 of the 11, will also have reading interventionists. So we'll be able to reach more kids that are struggling readers, catch them early, and then provide instructional resources for them to improve their reading achievement. And then, of course, instructional coaches, and I'll probably let Gary talk a little bit more about that, but we've got our instructional coaches already working hard. They met yesterday. They are the coach for everyone in the building, whether it be reading, science, math. They are the tool to bring the teachers together and raise the achievement level and our classroom practices. And so that, in a nutshell, for the elementary, we have a lot going on, but more resources in teachers' hands, more people on the floor, on the ground, and then the support for our classroom instruction, our classroom teachers, and also our parents. And they can come in and watch these classrooms, watch the model classrooms in place, ask questions, what can they do at home. A lot more communication planned this year too, through reading services. So I'll turn it over to Gary.
At the secondary level, you're probably thinking, what does teaching reading, or what does reading look like at the secondary level? I'll kind of break this into 2 parts, kind of what we're doing at the middle level, because that might take a little different look than what we do 9 through 12. So one thing that I think is very important is that the transition from the elementary reading instruction into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is a smooth and consistent transition. As Lori mentioned, the instructional coaches, they're kind of the glue that connects all of those dots to make sure that the framework that we have in place is consistent and carried out and well done in the classrooms. At the middle level, with our English Language Arts department, we are focusing on data teams to be the framework to maximize our impact in the classroom. And that data team piece is bringing your 6th grade ELA teachers together, bringing your 7th grade ELA teachers, and so on with your 8th grade, and look at student work and what does each group of students in each class, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, bringing that student work back together with the data team and saying, how can we break this apart into groups based on what students know and don't know, and then plan quality instruction accordingly. I think in the past, maybe we've separated our teaching of reading and writing. We kind of taught that as 2 different entities. The balanced literacy piece brings all that together so that we're doing that simultaneously. So at the middle school level, I think that's the biggest piece is our instructional coaches working with our ELA teachers and getting a smooth transition from the elementary up to the middle schools, and then using that data team piece. At the high school, we all know by then it's how much can you move a student forward in their reading ability. Probably not near as much as early elementary, but what we can do is make them better readers, better critical readers, and that's that close reading strategy where you slow down and you take a chunk of, whether it's an article, whether it's 2 or 3 paragraphs or 2 or 3 pages, and you look at it very closely, and you answer text-dependent questions, and it just makes our kids better critical readers for whatever they're going to be going into, whether they're reading a newspaper article or a book or post-secondary. So we're not maybe necessarily teaching them how to read in high school, but we want to strengthen their critical their critical reading skills. So that's a quick snapshot of what we're doing at the secondary level. We're going to hopefully keep the momentum going from our elementary friends.
Questions?
That's the most exciting part, is the transition from elementary to secondary, so the practices that he's talking about, those reading are starting to learn.
And so even some of the annotations and the way kids really address reading and underlining the key words and circling unknown vocabulary, it's going to continue same things all through secondary. And so we're excited about the work that we've got going this year.
And everybody, K through 12, well, I don't know about K. But even our seniors taking a senior level weightlifting class, you can do close reading. You can bring in articles about performance enhancing drugs, or should student athletes be paid at the collegiate level. So there's many articles. It's not like, well, how am I going to be able to bring in a close reading strategy in this class or in this class? I think it can easily be done, but we want to provide the resources and the guidance to do just that. We're not going to leave anybody out on an island and just say, here, go do this. We're going to provide all the support and resources they need to be successful.
Other questions?
So one of the things that's going on for us, pretty significant this year, is our literacy resource pilot. And so we have teachers from across the district that are engaged in what we call a pilot. And the pilot is we develop a relationship with companies who have a product that will help support these structures that these folks just talked about. And we work with those companies, we look at the product that they have, make sure that it will help us accomplish our task. And then we have multiple teachers, usually somewhere between 30 and 50 teachers who agree to take those products into the classroom, teach a unit, and evaluate and assess that product's quality and usefulness in the classroom, and does it address the standards in the curriculum. We do that to 2 or 3 different resources, and then that group of teachers gets to share that information with the other teachers. We bring them all, we offer an opportunity, we call it a resource fair, where all teachers can come in and look at those resources and ask questions of the people that are piloting it, and we let them give us input about which resources they think are best, and then we make a decision what's best for the district, which resource, and we purchase a single resource. We're not interested in having a different resource and a different company, a different product all over this district, because we lose our consistency. And so we choose a resource that we think is best for all teachers in this district and where we're at. We purchase that resource and then we implement it across the district. And that is a large task to take a single product and to try to get consistency and fidelity of a product in hundreds of classrooms on a daily basis is no easy task, and that's part of our challenge. But we're up for it and looking forward to our ELA pilot wrapping up at the end of this year. Questions about our literacy program? Okay, I just do want to go back one thing. I think you probably know this, but just to remind you that under those scenarios that I shared, especially under A, where the group of kids, 37 kids, would be transferred to or would fall under the south boundary. You probably heard Dr. Lithcom say that if that was a scenario that was chosen, that those students living in that area would fall under a special permission opportunity to say, we do want to go to South, or we want to stay at Cedar Hill. So that those are opportunities that they'll discuss with the board as well. So, okay, other questions, other topics you want to discuss?
One other topic I want to discuss, and I don't know if we would address this question too, but in regards to an article that was published in the News Tribune on last week, I think it was discussing repurposing of the field at Atkins Stadium will take place next summer. So it's a new turf field for the existing football field, and it says the final bid package documents for CCH shows the football field. So the new school, CCH, will gain a new football turf field with lights, and then it also discussed how the soccer field, the baseball field will just have grass fields and no lights. And I didn't know if that is a true statement, or has that been finalized at this point, or?
Jerry, do you want to address that?
The latest bid package on Capital City High School included sports fields at that location, the practice fields, because we're not building the the 5,000 seat stadium at this time, but there is turf over there for football and soccer. At the same time, Atkins Stadium, we think it was just turf, but it's actually at the end of its life, so it's getting replaced. So both schools will have a main field. Are you asking about the other fields?
It was just mainly just to verify, I have a follow-up question, I just want to verify that, that is the true statement that's what's planned going forward.
Yes, the other fields at Capital City High School, baseball, tennis, soccer, those were bid as bid alternates, correct?
Right, but we are working through the last alternate.
Okay.
Now it is all the turf for soccer, turf for infield at the baseball, seated outfield, no lights, playing as a practice facility.
The reason, when I use the word bid alternates, it means that we're not sure exactly how the bids are going to come in. So those other fields, we hoped to get into the project if the bids came in good, and they did. So those other fields are being added into the project and being negotiated contracts right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, my follow-up question maybe for the Jeff City Public Schools is, what message are we sending our kids, in the community that we're saying that the football gets hurt and lights, for their facility, when we already have a facility in Jefferson City, which is the Atkins Stadium, that can be utilized as a shared facility, like it has been over the many years now with Elias actually using it as an alternate. And then, allowing, other, groups like the soccer that end up having, not only do they have one team per year that plays like football, only have one team per year for each school playing, where the soccer program, they have two teams that play a year. So you're actually getting the boys team that plays in the fall, the girls team that plays in the spring, and then you would also be able to utilize that for both teams as well. So I think it'd be beneficial and, better use of our money in the community. I understand that the existing Atkins stadium needs to be pre-turfed because, it's in flight and we want to preserve that, keep that going. But at this time, I would say the best use of our money to allow 4 teams, 2 Jeff City high school, existing high school teams, and 2 new CCH teams to be able to have a soccer facility that they were able to play home games. Just last year, the girls soccer team only played about half of their home games at home. The other fields, they either got canceled because of rain, because they can't play on grass. It wasn't because it was raining half the time, it was because it rained 2 days, 3 days beforehand. And so then we were playing our home games at Elias Field, we drove to Springfield to play a home game, and then the rest of the games were either at Elias or canceled because of that. And I would think that, for the use of our money, I think it would be better to build a competition, understand no stadium or, no seating or anything like that. But, we bid it out, the cost of that, it's about $500,000. If you already have a flat area, you've got $500,000 to put a turf field on a, already, if you're already putting a grass flat field, it's about $500,000 to, convert that into a facility. And my thing is, we're building a turf field for the new high school that will allow one team to play on for a year. And, I think it would be better to go ahead and say that we're going to build a soccer field that both the Jeff City existing high school and the new high school, and allowing 4 teams to actually play on that team, having the turf, having the lights, and then still having, back practice fields down at 179 that they're currently doing. I mean, that would be what my proposal, and I think a lot of other people's proposal, that are dealing with, especially the soccer program, and just the better use of our money. I mean, I don't understand why we need 2 football fields in Jeff City when we can share the football field, and the soccer still does not have a dedicated, turf field for any of the schools that we have. And everybody else in our district that, that we're playing against all have turf fields as well too. So.
I can't answer the management of the fields, but I can tell you what is in the design in the bid packages. the district, when we thought we might only get 1 turf field at Capital City High School, the bids came in good and we were able to get other fields. But that football field is also striped for soccer. It's also used for band practice and things like that. That's the reason to go to turf is multiple disciplines can use it. We're kind of in the middle of receiving those bids and awarding contracts. That's why I looked at Mitchell, because they're literally not awarded. But my understanding is that, and this will all be cleared up in the next month or so as contracts are awarded, is that the baseball, tennis, and softball field are also being awarded. And that's that soccer field. The soccer field over there will be turfed.
So under
I understand that, when we say we have a turf field, I don't think people really care that we have stadium seating around it. That is, even though we call it a practice field, we can't use that as a actual game field, and that's the main concern because, not having the ability of parents to be able to watch their kids at a home game and then games being transferred to Springfield or, even going to a Pius facility, which is a great facility that we're able to use here in town, but it's not the same as a home game and, be able to say that we're playing at home. And, if it is a football field, it's lined for soccer, but that means it's secondary for soccer. It means, there's going to be some thoughts that, well, this is the football field and you guys need to stay off for now because it's not the soccer field. It's only lined for soccer just in case.
So Kerry, if the bid, it did eventually, the bid package came in and was awarded that they turfed the soccer field, then the lining on the football field would not have numbers to it.
We probably still put the soccer line because then you can play soccer on both fields.
Right, it would be great for a tournament situation.
Yeah, you have to kind of go back. You have to kind of go back a little bit into when the bond issue was passed. It was very important in the bond issue language that we were not building a second stadium, and that both schools would share 4 competitions that Atkins Stadium. That was very important to the voters. We were going to share for competition, so that's why we always use the word practice fields at Capital City High School. We're not building a full-fledged stadium there. I guarantee you that we have a plan to show when the district and the public wants to do that, we can lay it out. But right now, it's practice fields at Capital City and competition at JC, and that was part of the bond issue language to cut costs of the initial construction.
The turf and lighting is to help practice in the lane or help practice during the rain. There isn't going to be restrooms, parking,
So competition.
any of that would be amenities for competition. Not saying you're going to be able to use it, but to your suggestion, but at the same time, you don't want to paint the picture that it is a competition facility.
Our goal is to get as many of the facilities, the playing surface, as game ready as possible, minus the locker rooms, restrooms, concession stands. But, like for soccer, a lot of people bring their own chairs and just sit down anyway. So right now, and I don't think it's going to change, we do have soccer lines for the turf at Capital City. And depending on how the bids come in, our goal is to get as many as the fields game ready as possible. As far as the football field at Capital City, that field serves as a classroom as well. That's probably going to be the most utilized field for the PE classes. Also, when the band comes down and practice after dark, they'll have lights on the practice. To say that it's secondary to the lines on the football field are secondary, I can't tell you how to feel. I don't look at it that way because we want to have all of our programs be premier and championship programs. And so we're hoping that the infield of the ball field, the soccer field, it just depends on where the money comes in and how much we can complete them for game ready. So we're having lots of conversations about soccer and all our programs and how we can maximize our dollars and get them as game ready as possible. So we're having many conversations about that, and I appreciate your input because I can't say I disagree with too much or anything what you're saying. We're wanting to do that for all of our programs.
We anticipate public opinion catching up with you in the future. That's why those master plan comes and have all that information.
And, my whole point is, and it's published in the news, and maybe it's just maybe published in a different light than what the public, the Justin Public School wants, but, for calling it a football field, that's what it's, that's what the public's going to realize it is. They're not going to realize, even though it's got lines for the soccer, and it may be used for band and, other uses as well. I mean, to say that we have a football field, at that point, it's in the mind of the public saying that it's football. If we say it's soccer/football field, I mean, we already have a football turf field in Jeff City. If it was published and, pushed out to the public, well, this is a soccer field, turf field that has football. I don't see it being talked about like that. Because if we have it as soccer, I know that there's 4 competitive teams that would be able to use that year round. I know that, it can still be used for band, it could still be used for football. But knowing that we just need we need a practice field and a place for, 4 soccer teams that are in high school level to play in this community. And we just don't have that, where our grass fields are great, but it just doesn't do well when it starts raining and you're just not able to play those games or practice at all. I mean, our kids were practicing inside of PJ, LC, and the other schools for soccer, and that doesn't do very well for the game season when you're not able to get out there and on the grass. And if we had turf, we'd be able to practice in those situations, you know, that it rained the previous day. So thank you for that.
Good. I'll, carrying it over to tennis. So the tennis courts would be in, just, you know, viewing, so both schools can use it.
It would be half of the schools, the other half are international. It would be 4 schools. Right?
Yeah.
Going between living today versus living in the future. Trying to get as far as that national and
Both schools, both schools.
And so as he said, I don't think any of us will disagree with that at all. So if you would be willing to have just a minute after we could talk, I'd like to get some more information, so I'd like to share with Dr. Lipton, who we need to hear this information. So, other questions that you have? All right, if not, really, we appreciate your willingness to come out and spend time with us and ask questions and have conversations, and look forward to next month's coffee with Larry, I hope.